How can you decide that they're going to leave you? You haven't even hired them yet. You can't see those things on paper. You can't screen for them with a resume. You have to have conversations.
Seems like you're everywhere, and that's where I get kind of concerned, like, how do you do it? But it seems like you have guidelines and whatnot. Servant heart, leadership, drive. I would say something around drive with purpose.
It's kind of like long live the visionary, or the visionary like has to flourish. I'm not just going to sit on the sidelines. Like, I've got to go solve that. My identity has just now become like, I'm an entrepreneur. I like to solve problems.
Carrie, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, taking a deep breath. It's been a day so far, but, always good to be in a room with you, Bob.
Well, thank you, Carrie. I appreciate that. If people say, what's one thing you could tell visionaries, I think it's to slow down and take a deep breath. So I'm still client number one on that. So, so I want to hear a little bit about your journey as a visionary. I want to start with, you own a recruiting firm, correct? And I'm sure I'm not saying it right, called Purple Squirrel. Where did Purple Squirrel come from?
So Purple Squirrel is a recruiting industry term referring to the unicorn, or the perfect.
So I'm looking for the unicorn,
and
you help them find it.
Exactly. So it's like the elusive perfect candidate.
Got
and
it.
I started my career in a global firm, and I spent almost 10 years working in a global firm doing recruiting. And the way that they would use the Purple Squirrel term is, you were always trying to work closest to the dollar.
Right.
And so they would be like, work your A orders first and then your B orders. And the A orders, you had the candidates, the client was paying a reasonable salary. Like, this is a fillable job.
Right.
And then things get progressively difficult as you go down the list. And then they would always say, like, only work on the Purple Squirrels if you have, like, nothing else to do. So when I came to Michigan, I left the global firm, and I was kind of starting out on my own. And I wondered, how am I going to compete with these global firms that just have armies of recruiters doing pipeline recruiting?
Right.
And I thought to myself, I'm going to go purple squirrel hunting. That's how I'm going to differentiate myself, and that's how I'm going to build my resume as an independent recruiter.
Right.
And so I looked for like what would be very classically purple squirrel jobs. So in my first year or two in Michigan, I filled a food scientist position, like in the middle of nowhere. Just some really obscure roles that would have been very classically difficult.
Right.
And I was like, if I can prove success in some of these really niche, difficult rural market searches, like, I'll establish credibility and I'll go from there.
Right.
And so that's kind of the initial. And then when I started Purple Squirrel, we used that name, but we have redefined the term because we believe every search is difficult. If you're really trying to match those things that you can't see on paper, we believe every search is a search for a purple squirrel.
Especially core value fit and
Exactly,
things like that.
All of those things that like really drive fit and longevity, you can't see those things on paper. You can't screen for them with a resume. You have to have conversations, and there's lots of ways we do that, but ultimately we think every search is a purple squirrel because there's so many things that need to come together to create that longevity and that great fit.
I love it. Was it hard to get that name? Because it seems like if that's an industry term that someone else would have had it already.
There's a couple other firms out there that use something similar.
Right.
But it hasn't presented a challenge for us.
No, that's awesome. Well, I love presenting ourselves as something different and succinct, and that says who you are. I love it. It's very cool.
Well, I will tell you, though, it's funny because I was doing a lot of networking, and I still do to this day. But in the early days, I had a meeting with a gentleman, and it was probably, I'd started the business 3 months ago, and I'll never forget it. I could put myself in the seat that I was in that moment, 11 years ago. And he says, has it ever occurred to you that somebody might not take you seriously with a silly name like Purple Squirrel Advisors?
Right.
And I remember being like stunned and offended, and like he kind of called my baby ugly in that moment. But I was like, yes, it occurred to me. And if they don't get the name and if they don't understand us, then they're not our clients, right? But it was a moment where, there's always fear as an entrepreneur. I remember I had this like that little fear of like, is he right? And then I was like, no, he's absolutely not right. This is a great name because it's who we are. Right.
Oh, it's so good. I love it. There's a great connector in our midst here in Detroit, and I asked him why I haven't gotten more referrals from him. And he's like, I know you do a great job, but you don't dress professionally enough. And I'm like, okay, you're not my connector.
Right, you're not my
because
people,
that's not who, I dressed up for you today. and that's kind of my style is Hawaiian shirts, but just having fun and whatnot. Right. So be who you are. So Purple Squirrel. Cool. So what is the biggest mistake visionaries make when hiring you as far as trying to find someone? For me, I want this, and then I want this, and I want this, and I want that. I mean, I think I would be tough.
So first of all, you got to trust the process.
Right.
And I think that we don't just bring candidates, we also bring process.
Right.
And I think that's really important. And I think you got to trust the process, but also letting go of fears that you might have or the entrepreneur might have about past hires, and placing those fears and projecting them onto candidates and making assumptions. Like a lot of times we see this all the time. Well, they're almost too good. They're not going to stay with me. I'm like, well, how do you know that?
Right.
Like you are making an assumption based on information that we don't have. Like, how can you decide that they're going to leave you? You haven't even hired them yet. Right. Or there's all kinds of assumptions that people make based on seeing a resume or, generally seeing something on paper.
Right.
And our biggest thing is meet them.
Right.
Have an open mind, meet the candidate, and let go of those fears that you've had and those past hires that have burned you. Because this is a new person.
Right. It's a new day.
And they're a new person. You can't, and I mean, we just had a client that when they found out that we're a retained search firm, they're like, oh, well, our owners, they don't want to work with a retained firm. We had a bad experience. I'm like, well, your bad experience you didn't work with Purple Squirrel.
Right.
So I can't take responsibility for whatever experience you had with some other firm.
Right.
It's the same thing with candidates, like you got to have an open mind and let go of those past fears.
Right.
And run a good process. And generally, if you run a good process, I think you're going to end up with a good hire most of the time.
Well, and I've heard and believe we visionaries are the worst ones to make decisions because we are exciting in general. Then we get them excited, and so we think they're exciting, and it's like, oh, they're going to be great. And I know I've often sold people on trying to come work for me, and that hasn't worked very well.
well, and what's interesting about that, too, is that there's like an emotional aspect of hiring that I even have a hard time hiring for my own company because I lose my objectivity. Right. And so that's where, because we can get caught up in emotion and things that are intangible. And so that's where running a good process, having other people involved.
Right.
Letting go of the past fears and failures, those things are really important in hiring.
Love it. So what is your target market?
My target market, we love to work with small to mid-sized businesses who are really seeking a partnership and an advisor in hiring. So if a company is just looking for more of a transaction, send us resumes, go find us people, send us the resumes, that's really not who we are.
Right.
We really want to work in partnership with the company. We help them define the job description. We help them think about the role and how that role interacts with other departments and other, just how does this role impact your vision for the future? What role are they going to have in that? And so really trying to dig deep and understanding the role, but we want to start with that, and then we want to be partners through the whole process.
Right.
And if a client isn't looking for that type of interaction or process with us, then they're probably not a good fit. But we work with private equity firms.
Right.
We work with generational family businesses, and we work with entrepreneur-led businesses.
Right. Awesome.
Occasionally, we'll work with larger companies because we're a relationship, but for the most part, we spend our time with those other types of clients.
And you said when you came to Detroit, what brought you to Detroit?
So I was born and raised here, grew up in Rochester, and like to joke we were kind of old Rochester. We grew up in Rochester when it was a lot of farm country. You could see across our neighborhood to the houses multiple blocks away. But yeah, I grew up in Rochester. My family's here, and I just always had a desire to come back. I lived in Chicago. Mm-hmm. I went to Notre Dame, started my career in Chicago. My husband is a Chicago native.
Okay.
So convincing him to come to Michigan was the hard part. But we have 3 kids now, and our first 2 kids were born in the city of Chicago. And all of the things that were alluring about city life became inconvenient, right? We can't just jump in a cab and go somewhere with 2 babies.
Right.
And we would walk to get our groceries, and city lifestyle was just very different. All of a sudden, with 2 babies and all these other things, more difficult in the city. But really, there was a moment for me with that global company. It was very competitive internally, and it was very difficult for me to go on maternity leave. And so I had a moment the day I came back from my maternity leave with my second, and that moment kind of changed the trajectory of my career.
Nice.
And ultimately we had a decision. I was like, okay, my career is changing.
Right.
And do I want to restart here in Chicago, or do I want to restart in Michigan?
Right.
My husband was a stay-at-home dad.
Interesting.
Yeah, Blake was a stay-at-home dad.
Right.
And
I'm sure he's great at it.
He was great. I mean, he's really, really hands-on and great with the kids.
Right.
But yeah, he was a stay-at-home dad. My career all of a sudden was in flux, and we were like, let's go to where our network is. We actually moved in with my parents. We lived with them for almost a year.
We do what we got to do, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of when I started building from that time.
So it's interesting. I was living in downtown Chicago, being a national sales manager for a big company, got so fed up, quit, and then moved back to Detroit and started my own business. I mean, I'm from here as well, so interesting. Yeah. So we met through a program which was kind of a operating system for couples.
Right.
So what did that teach you, or what did you learn from that? Because we both believe in a business operating system, obviously. So how did that help you as a parent or as a couple?
Well, so that experience had like many layers to it of impact, which I can still like reference back to today. So first of all, it helped me to see that like these tools work with as few as two people.
Right.
And so I actually ended up I started using EOS with my company shortly after.
Oh, so you started with the personal.
Yeah, I started with the personal. And what I realized is that when Blake and I were not in alignment, it wasn't because we actually were not in alignment. Right. It was because we weren't communicating. Yep. And when we sat down and we talked about our goals and we talked about what's important, we talked about our core values, and we actually put those things on paper, we were super aligned.
Right.
But we just hadn't had the conversations about certain things.
Right.
And so that really gave me a lot of clarity on the importance of that dedicated time and that structure, even whether for families or for business.
Right.
And so what's really interesting about it though too is we wrote all of these things down, and we had the vision and the multi-year vision. I think we had a 10-year vision.
Right.
And I just looked at all of our documents recently, and many of the things that we set as a vision have come true.
Right.
And that is really cool, to see. And so then, we started using EOS as a company shortly after, because then I understood these tools work even if you're a small group.
Right.
And I will tell you that we started working on EOS in the fall of 2019, and it really saved us during COVID. And we actually grew like gangbusters during those COVID and post-COVID years. And I credit EOS and the tools that we were using in EOS with a lot of that.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's interesting. As I look at either business or personal visions of the future, almost all have happened. Just most of them are 2 times to 10 times as long. Because I think this should take 2 weeks, and it took 5 years.
Well, and then the other important
thing.
So
patience is something I'm still learning.
Yes. But in writing your goals down, the power of writing your goals down is so huge. But the other thing about that is that's where I met you. Right. And I ended up going on your mountain retreat shortly after. And then you told me about EO.
Right.
And I joined EO. And all of those things have had monumental changes on my life, and on my life as an entrepreneur. So it all started with being in part of that group.
Right. Oh, it's just amazing how when we start one thing, it's not always that's the end-all solution. It's one thing removed, or one thing removed, or one person removed.
Yeah, and the impact of a single decision.
Right. And so I may not be able to solve an issue you have, but I probably know somebody does.
Right.
That's awesome. So what's one thing that you're either working on or wrestling with now, either in your life or in your business?
Well, so I'm actually...
And it could be a struggle, it could be an opportunity.
Well, so I'm starting another company.
Of course.
So I started Purple Squirrel, and then I started another company called Home Again Rentals a couple years ago, and that's going fine, and I could grow it, but I was diagnosed with celiac disease a year ago. And that really turned my life upside down, and in many ways it was a shock, but I was glad to know it. And I realized that there was a lot of opportunities and kind of missing food and missing convenience items and different things that were missing in the gluten-free space. And I'm really a great baker, I realized, and I enjoy being in the kitchen. And I hadn't spent a lot of time in the kitchen in the prior, let's say, like maybe 8 years. I just here and there I would bake or cook, but my husband actually does a lot of the cooking. And I just realized, like, I want to solve for some of this, and I'm gonna, like, I don't think there's a great gluten-free cookie that I can get commercially. Like, I'm gonna figure out how to make like the best gluten-free cookie ever. And so I just have spent a lot of time in the kitchen, and now I'm starting another company, and that is proving to be the most difficult thing I've done. So the company does have a name. It's called Finara Hill. I've got a few cookies that are, like, I've had people test them. They're excellent.
If you ever need someone else to test, let me know.
Oh, I will. No, I absolutely will. I'll give some to you and Cheryl for testing. I've got a snickerdoodle, a brown butter chocolate chunk with sea salt, and then a chocolate peppermint. Those are my 3 cookies that I want to go to market with. But everything is more difficult in the gluten-free space because it's just so, that's my current challenge that I'm wrestling with. I have a huge opportunity in front of me, actually, with this business. There's a large chain of coffee shops that has an opportunity where they want to pilot a gluten-free product. But my challenge is that right now it's more conceptual because I can't find a commercial shared kitchen that's gluten-free. So I have to build one. And so, and I can't sell wholesale until I'm in a commercial space. So it's really, really hard. Everything with this food business has been harder than anything I've done before. And so I think that allows, what I'm wrestling with the most is like the fear. Like I bounce between excitement, enthusiasm, I know I can do this, and then that little nagging fear of like, what if it doesn't work? Or so that's something.
I appreciate that. So how do you accomplish everything? Because I know you have big dreams and big visions and you accomplish a lot. How do you do that with Purple Squirrel, and then with the rental, and then now with this, and you have 3 kids?
I have 3 kids and a husband and a puppy.
So how do you do all that? How do you be you through all that?
Well, I mean, so I don't know. I mean, my personality is very different. I like to stay like on the move. Like I very rarely sit down. I don't need a tremendous amount of time, like just sitting on a couch, or I don't watch TV. I do not watch TV.
Good for you.
So I have a hard time slowing down and stopping moving. So I do fill most of my waking hours with some form of activity, doing something towards one of these businesses or boards. My husband likes to remind me that not everybody can operate at that same speed. But I feel that I'm able to create time for things that are important for me. And I've learned how to say no.
Oh, that's huge.
Better to things that are not in alignment with like what I'm passionate about. And so I'm getting better at protecting my time and realizing like, okay, well, I only have so much time and I really want to spend time on this food business. So like that means I need to ensure that I don't get time taken out of my schedule for something that's not important.
So you mentioned EO, and so I believe not only you an EO member, but you're the current president, correct, of EO?
Correct, yep, as of a few weeks ago.
Congratulations. I've been through that road. So how is the entrepreneurial spirit in Detroit, and how is EO doing?
I think EO is doing great. I think our entrepreneur community in Detroit is really amazing and incredible. And what I find, and I mean, there's so many different types of businesses, which is interesting because I think when a lot of times when people think of Detroit, they think of auto. And when I think of our group, we've got so many diverse industries and types of businesses within EO. But what I found in the community is and I hope all communities are like this of EO, but the willingness to like help each other within the community. And it's very supportive. I think there's a lot of resilience and grit within our EO Detroit community. And I mean, I love it, and EO has given me a lot, and so I feel really excited to kind of contribute and give back to the community in this way.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, my EO forum. This fall we have our 30th annual retreat, and so when we came together after a couple of years, we said we're going to be together for 60 years. Mm-hmm. Talk about vision. 20 years on the business, 20 years on ourselves, which we're halfway through. And then the last 20 years, who knows? But we're excited to have fun together figuring it out.
Yeah.
No, it's been amazing. Well, very cool. So so two things. Why are you on this planet, and how do you want to be remembered? Just a small little question.
Oh my gosh, why am I on this planet? Well, I mean, I've got some roles that are really important. I'm a mom. Yep. Right? So I feel really important that I'm, certainly on this planet, we've got a next generation, and I've got 3 in this next generation. And so helping them to become good people that will contribute and give back to their communities. And so I think I'm definitely on this planet, not just for myself, but to contribute to my community, the community around me, and do good things for the community, the other people. So I feel really important about that. I feel very passionately that this diagnosis of celiac is a different type of kind of calling for me, because I feel that I believe that I've had celiac for certainly more than 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years. I have no idea.
Right.
And I had a lot of the signals and the symptoms, but my doctors weren't able to ever put it together. And, there's a stat, I think roughly 82% of the people living with celiac disease in the U.S. are undiagnosed.
Interesting.
And so a lot of people have symptoms like gastritis or Crohn's or like any number of gastrointestinal symptoms. But there's a plethora of other symptoms that are not gastro-related that are also connected to celiac, like other autoimmune conditions. And so I feel that I have an opportunity to help with some education and awareness around celiac and other autoimmune diseases, because there is a cure for celiac. It's a gluten-free diet, right? And so it's not easy, but there is a cure for it. So my passion really, there's a lot of passion I have around that and creating some awareness for that.
Right. No, I love it.
I don't know if that's why I'm on the planet, but for right now, that feels like something that I really need to make a difference with.
Right. Well, I call it craft for a lot of us visionaries that we're teaching what we're learning. So what I teach, I'm client number 1. Yeah. So it's not like, hey, everyone, here's what I figured out. It's, hey, everyone, here's what I'm working on. And here's what works and here's what doesn't for me. And so part of your craft is you're teaching how to thrive with a health issue or whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And just taking control and being your own advocate and looking for those answers. And those things are all really important, but it's a simple test too, like for celiac or all these other things. But like, I think if something doesn't feel right, keep asking questions is something that I've learned through that. So that's part of, I think, where I want to leave a mark.
Right. Oh, that's cool. Well, what comes up for me answering that question, it seems like you're everywhere. And that's where I get kind of concerned, like, how do you do it? But it seems like you have guidelines and whatnot. Servant heart, leadership, drive. And then I would say something around drive with purpose. Because a lot of drive I don't think has purpose. It's just either more or something around that. Mm-hmm. So I think there's something around there. So, and I know you maybe haven't thought about this, but if you had a book title, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. That is a tough one. I don't know that I can answer it right this second, but let me give it a minute. Gosh, I can't think of the book title, but it would be something about thriving, overcoming.
Right.
Something along those lines. I think, but
no, that's interesting. And that's something just to think about. I don't think everyone needs to write a book, but for me and for a lot of other visionaries I've coached and haven't coached, the book has been good for themselves and their employees, and just kind of explaining what they're learning. It doesn't usually make money, but it's something, to be remembered by. So something to think of.
Yeah.
I'm just I'll think of it as well, but something to consider there. So I think you already answered this, but what's one thing that changed the trajectory of your life that you can share either personally or professionally, as a visionary?
Okay, well, I've had a lot of powerful moments, and that's actually my theme for EO is moments that matter. But I think if I think of, you're talking about a single moment or a single
just
event.
an aha that it's like, whoa, look at that. I mean, it's so it could be something for your business. Like for me, probably the main thing is to make time for myself. That's counterintuitive. Yeah. My thing was, well, as soon as I have time, then I'll sit around. Well, I didn't have time. I had to make time. So the whole be, do, have concept.
Yeah.
So to make time, when I slow down, I'm so much more effective. And that just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So that's one of the things for me. But
okay, so I think it's that I had this realization. So when I first came into EO, I would say that my personal identity was very tied to Purple Squirrel.
Right.
And that happened kind of quickly because I started Purple Squirrel in 2015, and then I joined EO in 2020. So in 5 years, when I look back on that, I feel that my identity had really become so closely linked to Purple Squirrel Advisors. Even my Peloton username is Purple Squirrel, right? And so I felt very much like my identity was my business.
Right.
And then through just a lot of different work, probably work with you, work at the mountain, starting these other companies, being part of EO, I definitely feel very passionate about Purple Squirrel, but I don't feel that my identity is so intrinsically linked just with that business. I feel that I'm an entrepreneur. Right. And the different businesses that now I've started, they're solving problems. I face a problem and I'm like, that's not okay. This is a really challenging situation.
Right.
For example, the home rental business. We were displaced from our home due to an insurance claim. And this was my husband, my 3 kids, and my dog. We could not find a place to live while the restoration and repairs were going on for several months. Our insurance company was willing to, put us up somewhere, right. And we couldn't find a decent accommodations. And I was like, this is an opportunity. And so we ended up buying a house. It's a beautiful house. We furnished it, and it has been occupied by people that have been displaced from their home due to fires or floods or some other, insurance claim ever since we bought it. We've been occupied 10 and a half, 11 months out of 12 for 2 years now. So that was a problem I felt like I needed to solve it with the business. Now I've got my celiac issue. There's a lack of what I feel are great gourmet products in certain categories of gluten-free. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm not just going to sit on the sidelines. I've got to go solve that. So I don't know if that's realistic or what, but I think that my identity has just now become I'm an entrepreneur. I like to solve problems.
Well, that's huge because many entrepreneurs, visionaries, our identity is our business. So we talk in the EOS world about letting go of the vine, and that's getting the right people and processes, and then trusting people so we can elevate, and they're elevating as well. But a lot of times people, I've found, have a hard time letting go of the vine if they don't know what life beyond the vine is. And literally it's someone we know mutually, I think you were there, when they said, well, I can't get rid of my business because that's who I am.
Right.
And it's like, wow. And I was there too. And I loved going to work. I made a big difference. But to not have that be our identity, I think is huge. So good for you to realize that, sooner than later.
Yeah, and I've got a great team at Purple Squirrel Advisors. I've got the right team members, and they do a great job. And I'm in exactly the role that I like to do. I'm working in my sweet spot for the most part within Purple Squirrel. So that's allowed me to have time to do these other things and pursue these other passions and problems.
Right. That's awesome. So memories that matter. So
moments that matter.
Moments that matter. Thank you. Moments that matter. So maybe the book title is Making Moments That Matter and Making a Difference, or something like that. Because again, you're making moments that matter in EO for your employees, for your business, for your family. And you're making a difference. So something there. Who knows?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Or the power of a moment or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I love it. So you've mentioned the mountain a couple times. So what what was the mountain and what did you get out of the mountain?
So I went to the mountain. So it was fall of 2019.
Right.
I think it was like October, November timeframe. We did snowshoeing,
right.
I believe. So certainly there was snow. So it was an opportunity. It was I went. I didn't know anybody besides you.
Right.
So it was a group that was put together of entrepreneurs from different locations. We had somebody, I believe, from Canada, from Texas.
Right.
Myself from Michigan. I can't remember, maybe one or two other people, but you curated a set of experiences that like kind of led us through different exploration of ourselves and our businesses, and lots of reflection, in the hiking. We did some hiking and we went to different vistas and had time to kind of reflect, and we reflected as a group. So it was just a really dedicated time to process and think about what's important.
Right.
And then, we did the sweat lodge, which I had a really amazing experience with the sweat lodge.
Right.
And so I think the biggest thing for me though, Bob, is I hadn't spent that much time working on myself,
right,
or committed just totally to like some self-reflection and whatnot. Probably since I started the business in 2015, I'd just been operating on, this, 10 speed that I'm always on, and, getting away and spending that time. I came back like really refreshed from that.
Right. Well, yeah, for me, it's, first of all, being at a higher level, I just feel at home. So as a visionary, I can see farther. And I have a stone. I don't have it with me here right now, but it's basically going to the mountain isn't necessarily a physical thing. It's a mindset.
Right.
And so literally holding the stone, it's like, oh, what am I going to do? And then it's like, what would I do if I was on the mountain? And literally I think different. Now it helps that I've been there and I can picture that.
Right.
But it's just amazing and again, it's making time to be by myself, to listen. And it's, almost like a forced listening for 4 days, but it's nature. Oh,
yeah. And I love the mountains. I love hiking, getting out and movement and kind of movement combined with some activities and reflection. I think that was great. So I don't know, did I describe it?
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's different for everyone. But people are like, what's the mountain? I'm like, I really can't describe it because it's whatever it is for you.
Right.
And the main thing is time. And I like having something guided and a little prep work and whatnot. But yeah, it's about going in and people aren't judging ourselves. And then it's a safe space to hear ourselves think, a safe space to feel ourselves feel.
Yeah. And I remember I had some things that I was really struggling with at the time. And we had some exercises of kind of like throwing those things in the fire.
Right. Throw that shit in the fire.
Yeah. And I remember I got a lot out of that. And I do feel that when I came out of it, I had let go, like on some of those things that had been dragging me down. And I was like, gosh, like I do feel that got lifted, that bad energy that I was putting towards this, it got lifted through that experience. Awesome. And I came back feeling really good. And then I joined EO. And I think too, the other part of it was I hadn't been around other entrepreneurs and connected in that same way.
Right.
And so I think you at the mountain were like, you should join EO. And that's what I did. And there's a lot that's happened since then.
That's awesome. So do you have any questions for me or other comments? This is for visionaries, from visionaries, about visionaries. So anything else that you would share, either something that has worked for you or that you're wrestling with, or questions for me?
Well, I'm curious, in terms of you've been doing this, I think I'm like, what, your 10th or 11th podcast or?
For this season. So we did 47 virtual.
Okay.
And that was awesome. And that was all about the role of the visionary. And I asked all 47 people 5 questions. And so it was great and good experience. And I wanted to do a podcast, and I did. And so now that's probably a third of my next book coming up, is all of that information. So it's not me answering those 5 questions. It's 47 different people.
Yeah.
So when I combined with 313 Media, which I recommend, they are coaching me on running a podcast. They're managing it. And so what Dylan England told me is you can either have a conversation, which is what I was doing, or it can be about the person I'm interviewing, or it could be about me. And I'm like, so this is all about the person I'm interviewing. And so I love promoting other people and connecting for other people. I don't necessarily like doing it for myself. So this is now focused on you.
Right.
And so, this is the 10th one. I'm calling it season 2, even though the first one was probably 2 years. And then the other thing, not only is it in person, which is a whole different level, it's mainly about Detroit entrepreneurs. So like you said, I think I was kind of looking outside myself, and I'm going to create a membership group of 5,000 people. And it's like, okay, bring it home. It took me a couple of years to figure that out and bring it back. And so now I'm focused more on Detroit and people I know and the connections and just the synchronicity of we've talked that so-and-so. Hey, what about this?
What are you hoping your listeners get out of your show?
Good question. I'm hoping I have a very short attention span. And I think a lot of visionaries do. So we do 4 or 5 reels from each of these. And so I'm hoping that we're creating an audience where people are like, oh, if Coach Bob is doing something, he brings on interesting people who are usually very vulnerable and share lessons. So those little reels are great, creating digital conversations so that it's like, hey, Carrie, thanks for joining me. Oh, thanks for this. Oh, are you going here? Oh, and then it's really about relationships.
Yeah.
So Dylan has taught me it's not how many viewers I have or hits or likes or whatever. It's the relationships we're building. So we already have a relationship, but it brought us together again. Mm-hmm. We'll probably help each other even more in the future because we've reconnected.
Yeah.
So it's mainly connection with each other and then also connection with ourselves. Cheryl, my wife, she 20 years ago said I should have a radio show. Or I would have a great meeting with someone, and she's like, "Did you record it?" I'm like, "No." Well, what did you talk about? I'm like, I have no idea, because it just kind of goes through me. And someone said that I curate conversations.
Yeah.
So this way, we're recording it so we can look back, and then you're going to have a 45-minute video that you can use. So to me, it's about networking for people, which I love to do. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It's cool.
All right, cool. So any other words of wisdom?
What kind of lessons, is there themes that you've heard as you've interviewed so many entrepreneurs and worked with so many entrepreneurs? What are the biggest themes that you've noticed?
Figuring out your identity, which you mentioned, and it's not necessarily our business.
Right.
Figuring out what you're passionate about and make sure you're doing that or being that. And it doesn't have to be a business. It can be a hobby.
Right.
We talk about the delegate and elevate. There's 4 squares. I've added, I think, as you know, a 5th one, which is the things that I'm not necessarily good at, but like. It's called a hobby.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have blown off our hobbies.
Right.
And, I'm too busy. And so, to kind of rediscover who we are, and then just don't forget to play and have fun.
Yeah.
Especially we need structure. And it's, one of my taglines is put the soul back in your role.
Yeah.
So I think the number one is make time for myself, know who I am, and have fun.
Yeah.
So that's been really great. And then again, connecting, it's amazing how many people, it's like, oh, do you know so-and-so? Or, oh, what about this? Yeah. And so and again, I think I ultimately want to do a documentary about not just this podcast, but about the entrepreneurial spirit. So during the industrial age, we were huge, with the car companies and the assembly line. I feel with our resurgent, it's like, how are we helping not only each other in our businesses, but the city?
Right.
So that's kind of the next generation of this is, okay, what could we do to help the city and, and each other?
Right.
So, those are probably the biggest ones.
Cool.
Well, cool. So, as you know, the name of this is called Vivá La Visionary. When you hear that or think of Vivá La Visionary, what does that mean to you?
That means to me, like, I don't know if this is exactly what it is, but it's kind of like long live the visionary, or like, I'm thinking that it's a way, like the visionary, like, has to flourish.
Right.
And so I think about a flourishing visionary when I hear that term. Is that...
And it's whatever people make of it, but that is the general theme. It actually came from a lot of people talking about how through the business operating system, we feel, and I think we are kind of blamed as visionaries. Oh, there goes Bob, chasing squirrels again, and literally I let that my spirit get beaten out of me at times. Where I'm like, all right, fine, I'll just shut up. And some of us visionaries are drama kings or queens. So I'm like, fine, I won't do that. But then my company lost the visionary.
Right.
And so it is long live the visionary to me, and celebrate us. And as Gino says, and I, it's like, where would we be without visionaries? Right. And I used to think I was weird, not smart. I didn't fit in. I can't follow directions. I have a short attention span. And to realize I was a visionary and celebrate it. Yeah. And through a lot of my mentors, it's like, don't worry about the things I'm not good at. Celebrate and use the things that I'm great at. And then
and surrounding yourself with the right people too, having the right team members that understand.
Right.
And I mean, even like, I think having a spouse that really is supportive and understanding, like Blake is, I mean, it's taken some time probably for him to fully, but like, he's like, this is Carrie.
Right.
Like, this is Carrie. Like, and he's really supportive. Like, I think he had some hesitation initially on this food business, but like he is like really excited and like cheering me on with that now. And so I think it's important to have the people around us like understanding who we are, why we do what we do. And I don't if that makes sense.
No, for
but
sure.
Like it's, we can be a lot at times.
Well, at one of our summits when we had a video about what is a visionary, and Walt Brown, who's a great implementer and a great visionary and has a couple other businesses. I love it. He's just like, we wear people out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wear myself out, but to be around other visionaries and so we can understand ourselves. And again, we're the ones who are taking us into the next age. And it's not just that I don't want to just help visionaries. I want to help people have vision.
Right.
So I don't think a visionary can be made. But, with my son, Nick, it's like, what do you want to do after high school? Well, I don't know. Well, if you did know, well, I want to play D1 baseball somewhere warm. Like, let's look at that.
Right.
And a lot of people, what's your vision for your rock or your
that.
role?
And writing things down and asking those questions and really trying to understand.
Right.
That's great. Yeah. I really like that, the helping people have vision, because
a lot of people don't even know what it means.
Right.
And if I state it, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm wrong? And our whole thing is try it. I mean, if it's going to blow up the company, okay, let's maybe look at that. But otherwise, we're going to fall down. And what did we learn from and have the courage to get back up? Yeah, so it is teaching to have vision. Right. And a lot of people are kind of like, I'm just doing this.
Well, yeah. Well, I think the other thing, too, for the visionary, though, is to understand that we're wired differently and having patience for people around us that might need to catch up when we're running it, in different directions and speeds.
Right.
And my husband needs to remind me of that sometimes, because I can lack patience.
Right.
And he's like, Carrie, like, you are built differently. Like, most people need a little bit more like downtime or rest. And he's kind of like,
and take a breath once in a while.
Yeah. Like, so sometimes we need people to remind us of that. I have started playing Mahjong recently.
Interesting.
Which has been a really great opportunity to get away from my phone.
Right.
It's stimulating but relaxing at the same time. It's social. And so I'm like, okay, this is a little bit of an outlet for me where like I have to be focused on what I'm doing when I'm playing Mahjong.
Right.
And so that for me is a little bit of an outlet and a place to kind of slow myself down, because I do need that at times.
Oh, I like that. And that to me is part of life beyond the vine, is things outside of work. And so whether it's a hobby or a game or an activity, that's huge.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Well, I appreciate your wisdom, your friendship, and your time today. And Viva La Visionary.
Thank you for having me on the show. It was fun.